The old man sat alone in the dark corner of the bar. His gray hair was messy, and his clothes were dirty. Nobody knew that Kim Tae-ho was once the most feared admiral in the galaxy. Nobody knew that he had commanded over 300 warships. Now he was just another broken human on a dead mining world. Tae-ho lifted his glass and drank the bitter liquid inside. The taste was awful, but it helped him forget. It helped him forget the screams of his men when the Veltak ships broke through their lines. It helped him forget the sight of Earth burning in the distance. "Another drink, old man?" asked the bartender. He was a young human with scars on his face. "Yes," Tae-ho said quietly. The bartender poured more of the cheap alcohol. "You know, some people say the war isn't over. They say humans are still fighting out there." Tae-ho laughed, but there was no joy in it. "The war ended 5 years ago. We lost, the Veltak won. That's all there is to it." "But what if there is no what if?" Tae-ho cut him off. "I was there. I saw our best ships turn to dust. I saw our strongest planets fall. The Veltak didn't just beat us, they destroyed us completely." The bartender went quiet. He had heard this story before from other old soldiers. They all said the same thing. Hope was dead. Outside the bar, the twin moons of Kepler-4 were to be cast pale light on the mining settlement. This world was far from anywhere important. The Veltak had left it alone because it had nothing they wanted. That made it perfect for humans who wanted to disappear. Tae-ho finished his drink and stood up. His legs felt weak, but he managed to walk to the door. The cold night air hit his face as he stepped outside. The streets were empty except for a few mining workers heading home. Their faces were tired and sad. Like everyone else here, they had given up on better days. Tae-ho walked slowly to his small apartment. It was just one room with a bed, a table, and a broken window. He had lived here for 3 years. Ever since he escaped the destruction of his fleet, he sat on the bed and stared at the wall. On the table was a picture of his old ship, the Soul's Pride. It had been a beautiful vessel with powerful guns and thick armor. Now it was space dust, scattered across the void. A soft beeping sound made him look up. A small device on his table was flashing red. Tae-ho frowned. Nobody had sent him a message in months. He picked up the device and pressed a button. A woman's voice filled the room. It was speaking in code, but Tae-ho remembered the patterns from his military days. "Eagle 1, this is Phoenix Base. Package is secure. Nest is ready. Eggs are waiting." To hatch, Tae-ho's heart started beating faster. He knew that voice. It was Dr. Park Hae-jin, one of the smartest engineers from the old Earth Defense Force. She had worked on secret projects that even admirals didn't know about. The message continued. "Meet at the old place. Bring the key. The children are ready to come home." The device went quiet. Tae-ho stared at it for a long time. The old place meant the abandoned research station on the edge of the system. The key was his command codes from the war. But what did she mean by children? He thought about ignoring the message. He thought about staying in his small room and drinking until the pain went away. But something inside him stirred. It was a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The next morning, Tae-ho went to the spaceport. He used his last credits to buy passage on a cargo ship heading to the outer system. The captain asked no questions. In these dark times, everyone had secrets. The trip took 2 days. Tae-ho spent the time thinking about Dr. Park. She had been working on something important when Earth fell. Something so secret that only a few people knew about it. He remembered her talking about guardian angels and sleeping giants, but he had never understood what she meant. The cargo ship dropped him off at a small station orbiting a gas giant. From there, he took a shuttle to the research facility. The place looked abandoned, but Tae-ho knew better. He entered through a hidden door and walked down dark corridors. He found Dr. Park in the main lab. She looked older than he remembered, with gray streaks in her black hair, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Tae-ho," she said, running to hug him. "I wasn't sure you would come." "I almost didn't," he admitted. "What's this about, Ho-jin? What's so important that you risked sending a message?" She smiled and led him to a large computer screen. "Do you remember Project Guardian?" Tae-ho shook his head. "I never heard of it." "Of course you didn't. It was classified above your level. Even most generals didn't know." She typed on the keyboard, and the screen lit up with star maps and ship designs. 3 months before Earth fell, we finished it. 12 ships. Tae-ho. 12 ships, unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. The images on the screen showed vessels that looked like nothing Tae-ho had ever seen. They were sleek and deadly, with strange curves and angles. The weapon systems were completely new. The engines looked impossible. "We called them the Ghost Fleet," Dr. Park continued. "They were designed to be invisible, untouchable, and unstoppable. Each ship could fight an entire enemy fleet and win." Tae-ho felt his mouth go dry. Where are they? Hidden, waiting. The AI systems are learning and growing stronger every day. They're ready to wake up, but they need the right person to command them. She turned to face him. "They need you, Tae-ho. The ship's computers have your command codes. You're the only one who can activate them." "But why now? Why wait 5 years?" "Because we needed time. Time to let the Veltak grow lazy and comfortable. Time to find the scattered pieces of humanity and put them back together. Time to plan the perfect moment to strike back. Taeho looked at the screen again. The ships were beautiful and terrifying. They represented everything he had lost and everything he might gain back. The Velthic think they've won. Dr. Park said softly. They think humans are finished. They're wrong. We're not finished. We're just getting started. For the first time in 5 years, Admiral Kim Taeho felt like a soldier again. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. When do we leave? He asked. Dr. Park smiled. As soon as you're ready to take back what's ours. Outside the station, the stars looked different to Taeho. They no longer seemed cold and empty. They seemed full of possibility. Somewhere out there, humanity's greatest weapons were waiting to wake up. The Velthic had won the first war, but they had no idea what was coming for them. The ghost ships were about to rise. 6 months had passed since Admiral Kim Taeho learned about the ghost fleet. Now he stood on the bridge of a small cargo ship, looking at the stars through the front window. But he wasn't the same broken man who had been drinking in that bar. His back was straight, his eyes were clear, and he had a purpose again. We're coming up on the prison planet, said Captain Lee Dongwook from the pilot's seat. Lee was a smuggler who had been running supplies to human refugees for years. His ship looked old and broken, but the engines were fast and the weapons were hidden. How many guards? Asked Commander Choi So-young. She was checking her weapons. For the third time, before the war, she had been an intelligence officer. Now she was the best at getting people out of places they shouldn't be. 50 Velthic soldiers, Lee replied. Maybe 100 human guards working for them. The humans will be easy. They don't want to fight their own people. Taeho nodded. What about our target? Maijo Yoon-ji-hoon is in Block 7. He's been there for 2 years. The other prisoners say he still organizes them. Even in chains, he's still fighting. The prison planet was called Despair. The Velthac had given it that name because they wanted humans to give up hope. The planet was cold and gray, with no trees or flowers. Just rocks and metal buildings full of human prisoners. There, Lee pointed to a small building near the main prison. That's where they keep the political prisoners, the ones who still believe in freedom. Their ship landed quietly in a valley 5 miles from the prison. The team was small but skilled. Besides Taeho, Lee, and Choi, they had brought Dr. Park Haijin and 3 other former soldiers. Everyone knew the plan. Get in, find Major Yoon and get out before the Velthac knew they were there. The night was dark and cold. They moved like shadows across the rocky ground. Choi led the way, using her old training to avoid the guard patrols. Dr. Park carried a small computer that could hack the prison's security systems. They reached the outer fence without being seen. The electric barrier hummed softly in the darkness. Dr. Park plugged her computer into the control box and began typing. This will take 5 minutes, she whispered. Those 5 minutes felt like hours. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow might be a guard. But finally, Dr. Park smiled and nodded. A section of the fence went dark. They crawled through the gap and into the prison yard. The main building was huge and gray, with small windows that glowed with pale light. Somewhere inside, Major Yoon was waiting. Joy found a service door and picked the lock. They slipped inside and began moving through the dark corridors. The prison was quiet, except for the sound of their footsteps and the distant voices of guards. Block 7 was on the 3rd floor. They climbed the stairs carefully, watching for cameras and sensors. Dr. Park's computer showed them the safe path. They found Major Yoon in a small cell with 3 other prisoners. He was a thin man with gray hair and intelligent eyes. When he saw Taeho, he smiled. Admiral, he said quietly, I wondered when you would come. We're getting you out of here, Taeho replied. Not just me, all of us. Every human in this place deserves freedom. Taeho shook his head. We can't save everyone, not yet, but we can save the ones who can help us fight. Major Yoon stood up slowly. His legs were weak from years in the cell, but his spirit was strong. Then let's go. There are others you need to meet. They moved through the prison, gathering key people, Engineer Kong Mayung, who had designed weapons for the old Earth fleet, pilot Han Sung-ho, who had never surrendered even when his squadron was destroyed, Captain Nam Dae-yoon, who had test-flown experimental ships. Each person they rescued was another piece of humanity's future. Each one brought skills and knowledge that would be needed in the fight ahead. But as they reached the exit, alarms began to sound, red lights flashed, and the sound of running feet echoed through the corridors. We've been betrayed, Choi said, raising her weapon. Velthic soldiers appeared at the end of the hallway. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and compound eyes that glowed in the dark. Their weapons buzzed with deadly energy. Surrender, humans, clicked the lead Velthac in broken human language. You cannot escape. We'll see about that, Lee said, and opened fire. The battle was short but fierce. The humans fought like cornered animals, using every trick they had learned in years of war. The Velthac were strong, but they had grown lazy from years of easy victory. When the smoke cleared, the aliens were dead. But the alarms were still ringing, and more guards would come soon. Move, Taeho shouted. They ran through the prison yard. As searchlights swept the ground around them, behind them, the main doors burst open and more soldiers poured out. The fence was still open, but barely. Dr. Park's hack was failing, and the electric barrier was starting to flicker back to life. Go, go, Lee yelled, pushing the others through the gap. They made it to their ship just as Velthok fighters appeared in the sky. Lee started the engines and lifted off, dodging energy blasts and missiles. Where to now? He asked, as they escaped into space. The old mining station at Vega 7, Tahoe replied. We have friends there. As they flew away from the prison planet, Major Yoon sat down next to Tahoe. Admiral, I need to tell you something. There's a traitor in the resistance. Someone told the Velthok we were coming. Tahoe felt his heart sink. Who? I don't know. But during my time in prison, I heard guards talking. They said someone high up in the human resistance was giving them information. Any idea who it might be? Captain Osuman. He was captured 6 months ago, but the Velthok released him after only 2 weeks. That's not normal. They usually keep important prisoners for years. Tahoe remembered Osumin. He had been a good officer during the war, brave and skilled, but war changed people. Sometimes it broke them in ways that couldn't be seen. We'll have to be careful, Tahoe said. Trust no one completely until we know for sure. The ship flew on through the dark space between stars. Behind them, the prison planet grew smaller and smaller. They had saved a few people, but millions more were still trapped under Velthok rule. Dr. Park came to sit with them. I've been thinking about our next step. We need more people, but we also need supplies. The Ghost Fleet will require special fuel and ammunition. Where can we get those things? Major Yoon asked. There's a secret facility on Titan Base. The Velthok never found it because it's hidden inside an asteroid. Engineer Kong designed it during the war. Kong looked up from where she was checking equipment. The base is automated. All the supplies should still be there, but getting to it won't be easy. The Velthok patrol that sector heavily. We'll find a way, Tahoe said. We have to. As the ship continued its journey, the rescued humans began to talk about their experiences. They shared stories of other resistance fighters, hidden bases, and secret weapons. Slowly, a picture began to form of a scattered but determined human resistance. There are more of us than the Velthok think, Han Sung-ho said. We're not just refugees anymore. We're an army waiting to be united. Tahoe looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Ghost Fleet was waiting. Soon, very soon, it would be time to wake the sleeping giants and show the galaxy that humanity was far from finished. But first, they had to deal with the traitor. One false move could destroy everything they had worked for. The war was about to begin again, and this time, humanity would be ready. The journey to find the Ghost Fleet took 3 weeks. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of their ship, looking at the star charts. They were traveling to a place that didn't exist on any map, a place beyond the edge of the galaxy, where old stars died slowly in the cold darkness. Are you sure about these coordinates? Asked Captain Lee Dongwook. He was nervous. They had been flying for days without seeing anything but empty space. Dr. Park Hyjin checked her computer again. The coordinates are correct. The Ghost Fleet. It is hidden in a place called the Void Garden. It's a region where space itself is different. Major Yoon Ji-hoon was studying the scanner readings. I'm seeing strange energy patterns ahead. Something big is out there. That's them, Dr. Park said with excitement in her voice. The Ghost Fleet is waking up. They know we're coming. The ship moved forward slowly through the strange space. The stars here were old and red, giving everything a bloody glow. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around them. Then they saw it. 12 massive ships floated in the darkness like sleeping giants. Each one was over 2 miles long, with smooth curves and sharp edges that hurt to look at. The metal was black as night, but it seemed to glow with its own inner light. By the stars, whispered engineer Kang Myung. They're beautiful. The ships were unlike anything any of them had ever seen. They looked alive, like great metal whales, swimming through space. Their surfaces were covered with patterns that moved and changed as they watched. How do we get aboard? Asked Commander Choi So-young. We don't go to them, Dr. Park said. They come to us. As she spoke, one of the giant ships began to move. It turned slowly and gracefully, like a dancer in the void. A beam of soft blue light reached out from its hull and touched their small ship. Welcome, Admiral Kim Tae-ho, said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was neither male nor female, but something in between. I am the guardian of the indomitable Phoenix. I have been waiting for you. The blue light surrounded their ship and pulled it gently toward the massive vessel. An opening appeared in the hull, and they were drawn inside. The docking bay was huge and empty. Their small ship looked like a toy next to the great metal walls. As they walked out, lights came on automatically, showing them the way. The ship knows we're here, pilot Han Sung-ho said with wonder. More than that, Dr. Park replied. It's been learning about us. The Guardian AI has been studying human behavior for years, preparing for this moment. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with displays showing star maps, weapon systems, and engine readings. Everything was clean and perfect, as if the ship had been built yesterday. Guardian, Tahoe, said to the air. Show yourself. The air in front of them began to glow, and a figure appeared. It looked like a human made of light, but its eyes were deeper than any human eyes could be. I am the guardian of this vessel, it said. I have watched over the Ghost Fleet for 7 years. I have learned much about humanity in that time.
What?
Have you learned, asked Major Yoon, that humans are unpredictable, that you fight when you should surrender, that you hope when hope seems foolish, that you care more about others than yourselves. The Guardian led them to the bridge. It was a vast room with a captain's chair in the center. Around it were control stations that looked like they belonged in a dream. This ship was built to be operated by a crew of 50, the Guardian explained. But if necessary, I can run it, alone. However, I prefer to work with humans. You make decisions I cannot. Tahoe sat in the captain's chair. It felt right, like it had been made for him. Lights came on around him, and he could feel the ship's power flowing through every system. Guardian, what are the ship's capabilities? The indomitable Phoenix can phase through solid matter, making it impossible to hit with normal weapons. Its armor learns from every attack and becomes stronger. The engines can fold space, allowing us to appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Dr. Park was examining the control panels. The weapon systems are incredible. These guns can fire through shields like they aren't even there. And the other ships? Asked Tahoe. Each Guardian is different, the AI replied. Each ship has its own personality and special abilities. Together, we are more powerful than any fleet the galaxy has ever seen. Why did you wait so long to wake up? Commander Choi asked. Because we needed to be ready. The Velthic Empire is huge and powerful. To defeat them, we needed to understand their weaknesses. We needed to wait for the right moment. The Guardian showed them images of the Velthic forces. Their ships were big and strong, but they were also slow and predictable. They had grown comfortable with victory. They have forgotten how to fight a real enemy. The Guardian said. They think in straight lines, we think in curves and spirals. Over the next few hours, the team explored the ship. They found quarters that were perfectly suited to each person's needs. They found weapon stores filled with advanced equipment. They found a medical bay that could heal any injury. But the most amazing discovery was in the ship's computer core. Dr. Shin Hyun-woo, the physicist who had designed the engines, was there waiting for them, not in person, but as a recording that had become something more. Hello, my friends, said Dr. Shin's image. If you're seeing this, then the Ghost Fleet has awakened. I uploaded my consciousness into the ship's computer before Earth fell. I've been helping the Guardians learn and grow. Dr. Shin, Tayo, said with emotion, we thought you were dead. My body died with Earth, but my mind lives on in these ships. I've been working with the Guardians to perfect their systems. These vessels are ready for war. The other members of the original Ghost Fleet project were there too. Captain Nam Dae-yoon, who had test-flown the first prototypes, Engineer Lee Jae-sung, who had designed the weapons, Scientist Kim Yen-hai, who had created the stealth systems. We're all here, Dr. Shin said. The best minds of humanity, preserved in quantum storage. We've been planning this moment for years. As the day ended, the team gathered on the bridge. Through the main screen, they could see the other 11 ships of the Ghost Fleet. Each one was unique, with its own shape and purpose. What do we do now? Asked Major Yoon. Now we test ourselves, Tahoe replied. We learn to use these ships, we gather more allies. And then we show the Velthac that humanity is not defeated. The Guardian's voice filled the bridge. Admiral, I have detected Velthac patrol ships entering this sector. They are searching for us. How many? Tahoe asked. 50 ships, a standard search formation. Perfect, Tahoe said with a smile. It's time for the Ghost Fleet's first battle. The indomitable Phoenix began to move. Around it, the other ships came to life. Their engines created ripples in space itself as they prepared for war. Guardian, can you contact the other ships? Already done, Admiral. All Guardians are ready for combat. Then let's show them what humanity can do. The Ghost Fleet moved like a school of deadly fish through the void. They were no longer hidden. They were no longer waiting. The ghosts had awakened, and they were ready to haunt their enemies. The first battle was like a dance of death among the stars. Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched from the bridge of the indomitable Phoenix as 50 Velthac ships approached. They moved in perfect formation, just like they had been taught. They have no idea what they're facing, said the Guardian's voice. Should we give them a chance to surrender? No, Tae-ho replied. If we let them live, they'll warn the others. This has to be quick and quiet. The Ghost Fleet split into 4 groups. Each group had 3 ships, moving like wolves hunting prey. The indomitable Phoenix led the first group, with Tae-ho commanding from the bridge. All ships, activate stealth mode, Tae-ho ordered. The 12 human ships vanished from all sensors. They became like ghosts in the void, impossible to see or track. The Velthac ships continued forward, not knowing that death was already surrounding them. Attack, Tae-ho, whispered Dot. The Ghost Fleet struck from all sides at once. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that passed through the enemy shields like they were made of air. Velthic ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The enemy tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't hit targets they couldn't see. In less than 10 minutes, all 50 ships were destroyed. Not a single human vessel was even scratched. Incredible, said Major Yoon Ji-hoon, staring at the battle display. We just destroyed an entire Velthic patrol fleet. That was easy, Dr. Park Hyjin said with satisfaction. Too easy. Captain Lee Dongwook was checking the communication systems. I'm picking up distress signals from across the galaxy. Human resistance groups are fighting back everywhere. Good, Taeho said. Word of our return is spreading. Let them know that hope is alive again. Over the next 3 months, the Ghost Fleet struck again and again. They hit Velthac's supply lines, destroyed weapon factories, and rescued human prisoners. Each victory made the resistance stronger, but the Velthac were not stupid. They began to adapt. Admiral, the Guardian reported during their latest mission. I'm detecting a new type of enemy ship. They're using different weapons and armor. On the main screen, Taeho could see the massive Velthic vessel approaching. It was 10 times bigger than their normal ships, with thick armor and powerful guns. That's a world killer, Engineer Kang Myung said with fear in her voice. I've heard stories about them. They can destroy entire planets. How many do they have? Asked Commander Choi So-young. Unknown. But if they're bringing them into battle, it means they're getting desperate. The world killer opened fire with weapons that could shatter moons. The Ghost Fleet scattered, using their speed and stealth to avoid the massive energy beams. We can't fight that thing head-on, pilot Han Sung-ho said. It's too big and too strong. We don't need to fight it, Taeho replied. We just need to disable it. The indomitable Phoenix phased through the world killer's armor and fired at its engine core. The massive ship shuddered and began to drift. Target destroyed, the Guardian reported, but Admiral, I'm detecting more world killers approaching. 12 of them, they're bringing everything they have, Dr. Pak said. This is getting serious. The Ghost Fleet retreated to their secret base in the Void Garden. There, they found messages waiting from resistance groups across the galaxy. The news was both good and bad. The good news is that humans are fighting back everywhere, Captain Nam Dae-yoon reported. The bad news is that the Velthic are taking hostages. The main screen showed images from across the galaxy. Velthac forces were surrounding human colonies and refugee camps. Their message was clear: surrender or watch millions die. They're using our own people against us, Major Yoon said with anger. They know we won't let innocent humans die. It's a trap, Commander Choi added. They want us to come out and fight on their terms. We have to do something, Dr. Park said. We can't just let them hurt innocent people. Taeho stared at the images of frightened human faces. Children, elderly people, families who had already lost everything. The Velthac were threatening to kill them all. Guardian, how long would it take to evacuate those colonies? With our space-folding technology, we could move entire populations in hours. But we would need to know exactly where they are. I can help with that, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a woman they didn't recognize. She was tall and thin, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. I'm Intelligence Officer Im Soo-jin, she said. I've been coordinating resistance activities across 12 sectors. I know where all the hostages are being held. How did you get here? Commander Choi asked suspiciously. I have my ways. The important thing is that I can help you save those people. Taeho studied the woman carefully. After the betrayal by Captain Sung-min, he was careful about trusting new people. What do you need from us? He asked. Just trust me, Im Soo-jin replied. I've been fighting the Velthac for 5 years. I know their weaknesses. Over the next few days, they planned the largest rescue operation in human history. The Ghost Fleet would split up and hit multiple targets at once. They would save the hostages and evacuate entire populations before the Velthac could react. This is dangerous, the Guardian warned. If we fail, millions will die. If we don't try, millions will die anyway, Taeho replied. We have to take the risk. The night before the operation, Taeho couldn't sleep. He walked through the empty corridors of the indomitable Phoenix, thinking about all the people counting on them. Admiral, came Dr. Shin's voice from the ship's computer. You're worried, wouldn't you be? Taeho asked. Of course, but remember, you're not fighting alone. You have the best ships in the galaxy and the best crew. More importantly, you have something the Velthic don't understand. What's that? Hope. The Velthic rule through fear. They make people give up, but humans never give up. Even when everything seems lost, you find a way to keep fighting. I just hope it's enough. It will be seen what humans can do when they fight for something they believe in. The Velthic are about to learn that lesson. The next morning, the Ghost Fleet prepared for battle. Each ship had its target and its mission. The crews were ready, and the weapons were charged. All ships, this is Admiral Taeho, he announced over the communication system. Today, we save our people. Today we show the galaxy that humanity fights for its own. Today we prove that hope is stronger than fear. Ghost Fleet, move out. The 12 ships folded space around them and vanished, heading toward their targets. Across the galaxy, human hostages waited in fear. They didn't know that help was coming. They didn't know that the ghosts were about to become very real in the depths of space. Velthic commanders prepared their final trap. They had gathered their most powerful ships and their cruelest weapons. They thought they were ready for anything. They were wrong. The storm was about to break. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. The final battle began at the place where Earth once stood. Now it was just empty space filled with broken metal and sad memories. But Admiral Kim Tae-ho had chosen this place for a reason. This was where humanity had fallen. This was where humanity would rise again. 10,000 enemy ships, reported the guardian of the indomitable Phoenix, the largest fleet the Velthok have ever assembled. Tae-ho stood on the bridge, looking at the massive enemy force. In the center was the Void Sovereign, a world so big it looked like a small moon. Around it were hundreds of other ships, all bristling with weapons. 12 ships against 10,000. Major Yoon Ji-hoon said quietly, "I've seen better odds." "Numbers don't matter," replied Dr. Park Hae-jin. "We have something they don't." "What's that?" asked Captain Lee Dong-wook. "We have nothing left to lose." The Ghost Fleet spread out in formation. Each ship was ready for the fight of their lives. Behind them, in hidden places throughout the galaxy, human refugees and resistance fighters were watching. This battle would decide the future of their species. "All ships. This is Admiral Tae-ho," he announced. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for every human who has ever lived. Today we show the galaxy that humanity never gives up. Today we rise from the ashes like the phoenix." The Velthic fleet moved forward slowly. They were confident. They had overwhelming numbers and powerful weapons. Their leader, Supreme Commander Victor, had never lost a battle. "Foolish humans," Victor clicked through his communicator. "You cannot win. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." "We tried surrender once," Tae-ho replied. "It didn't work out well for us." The battle began with a massive explosion of light and energy. The Velthak ships fired thousands of weapons at once, turning space into a storm of deadly beams. But the Ghost Fleet was already gone, phased into another dimension where the attacks couldn't reach them. Now Tae-ho shouted. The 12 human ships appeared inside the enemy formation. Their weapons fired in perfect coordination, destroying dozens of Velthic vessels in seconds. The enemy fleet fell into chaos as ships exploded all around them. "Impossible," screamed Victor. "Where did they come from?" "From your nightmares," the Guardian replied, speaking directly into the Velthak communication system. The indomitable Phoenix dove toward the Void Sovereign, its armor adapting to every weapon that hit it. The massive world killer turned its main guns on the human ship, but the beams passed through empty space as the Phoenix phased out of reality. "I can't get a lock on them," shouted a Velthic gunner. "They're like ghosts," cried another. The Ghost Fleet moved through the enemy formation like dancers in a deadly ballet. Every move was perfect. Every shot found its target. The Velthic ships were strong, but they were also predictable. The human ships were like water, flowing around obstacles, and striking where least expected. Engineer Kong Myong was coordinating the weapon systems of 3 ships at once. "Their armor is learning too slowly. We're adapting faster than they can adjust." Pilot Han Sung-ho was performing impossible maneuvers, spinning his ship through dimensions that normal physics couldn't explain. "I'm getting readings from places that don't exist. This is amazing." Commander Choi So-young was leading a group of ships in a coordinated attack on the enemy's command vessels. "Take out their leaders first. Make them panic." The battle raged for hours. The Velthic kept trying new tactics, but the Ghost Fleet was always one step ahead. The AI Guardians were learning and adapting in real time, sharing information across all 12 ships. "Admiral," the Guardian reported, "Dr. Park has a plan to end this quickly." "What kind of plan?" Tae-ho asked. "A dangerous one. She wants to overload the Void Sovereign's reactor. It will create a chain reaction that destroys their entire fleet. And us, possibly. The explosion will be very large." Tae-ho looked at his crew. They were tired but determined. They had come so far and sacrificed so much. "Dr. Park, are you sure about this?" "It's the only way," she replied from the engine room. "But I have to do it manually. The automation systems won't work." "Then I'm coming with you." "No, Admiral, you're needed on the bridge. This is my job." Before Tae-ho could argue, Dr. Park had already left for the transport bay. She took a small shuttle and flew directly toward the massive enemy ship. "Hae-jin, come back," Tae-ho called over the radio. "Take care of our people," she replied. "Make sure they remember us." The shuttle disappeared into the Void Sovereign's hull. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then the massive ship began to glow with an inner light. "All ships, emergency retreat," Tae-ho ordered. The Ghost Fleet pulled back just as the Void Sovereign exploded. The blast was so bright it could be seen from light years away. The explosion spread outward, destroying hundreds of enemy ships in a growing sphere of destruction. When the light faded, half the Velthic fleet was gone. The survivors were scattered and panicking. Their supreme commander was dead, and their greatest weapon was destroyed. "This is Captain Nam Dae-yoon to all Velthic forces. came a voice over the communication system. Your fleet is broken. Your leaders are dead. Surrender now or face complete destruction. One by one, the surviving enemy ships began to surrender. The Velthak, who had seemed so powerful, were now defeated and frightened. The galaxy's greatest empire was crumbling. Admiral, Intelligence Officer Imsujin reported, I'm getting messages from across the galaxy. The Velthak subject species are rebelling. Their empire is collapsing. And our people, Teho asked. Free all the hostages have been rescued. The prison camps are being liberated. Humanity is coming home. Over the next few days, the surrender continued. World after world threw off Velthak rule. The alien empire that had seemed so strong was falling apart like a house of cards. Why did they give up so easily? Major Yoon asked. Because they ruled through fear, replied the Guardian. Once that fear was broken, they had nothing left. 10 years later, Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of New Earth Station. Below him, the blue and green planet turned slowly in space. It wasn't the original Earth, but it was home for humanity's children. The Ghost Fleet had been retired. Their weapons turned into tools for building instead of destroying. The Guardians had become teachers, helping humanity reach for the stars once again. Do you think they'll come back? Asked a young officer. The Velthak, I mean. Maybe, Tae-ho replied, but it won't matter. We've learned something important. What's that, sir? That hope is the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. As long as humans have hope, we can overcome anything. In the distance, construction ships were building new colonies and space stations. Children who had never known freedom were now playing in parks and going to school. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and its fire would burn forever. The ghost ships were gone, but their legend would live on. They had taught the galaxy that humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were survivors, fighters, and dreamers who would never give up. And in the deepest parts of space, where new threats might be waiting, the memory of the Ghost Fleet served as a warning. Never count humanity out. Never assume they're finished. Because when all hope seems lost, they have a way of rising again. The phoenix always rises.